downtown last night. Kirk Wright tells us
The deceased teen, Devonese Nelson, only 17 years old, was at the home of her child's father at Kings Heights, Water Street in Downtown when she was shot in the head. The police say their investigations so far suggest that she was shot during a domestic dispute. They say they were alerted to the incident by residents shortly after 11 o'clock Sunday night.
Our investigations at this time have caused us to identify two persons as persons of interest. One is the father of a child for Devon Nelson, and there's another person who is the uncle. We have made some efforts to locate these persons, but we have not been met with any level of success.
The deceased teen was a student at the Denhamtown High School. The police say herself and her child's father, who is now a person of interest, are troubled teens and were a part of the police community safety and security mentorship program.
But in recent times, we realized that the male person decided not to assist us anymore and actually broke off from our mentorship program.
We asked the police about reports swirling around that the shooting was accidental.
We'll tell you that we are at the very early stage of our investigations now. I would not want to speculate as to what is it that may have transpired, but we are due getting information which is suggesting that the particular shooting may not have been a deliberate act. But we would want to speak to the persons who were present and then allow the evidence to direct us in terms of what course of action we take around this matter.
Kirk Wright, TVJ News.
There are more appeals this evening for justices of the peace to work with the government to help stop the bloodletting in the country. According to Justice Minister Delroy Chuck, justices of the peace already have a strong influence in communities and could help people resolve conflicts peacefully. Kelisha Williams has that report.
It's not the first time justices of the peace are called upon to help with crime fighting. And if it's up to Justice Minister Delroy Chuck, it won't be the last. Speaking in St. Elizabeth over the weekend, Mr. Chuck stressed that the crime wave is simply getting beyond the control of the police and government alone.
We want to work together. It cannot be that you say the government must do it, the police must do it. We all have to do it. And the Ministry of Justice is embarking on this program to really engage the JPs.
Pointing to Tuesday's massacre in Clarendon, Mr. Chuck indicated that majority of the murders in the island have been linked to family disputes.
It is clear that a dispute arose, and it's not a question that the fellow just went there and cut fighting out. The truth of the matter is that they were fighting. All the evidence suggests that the mother was fighting, she has cut all over her. So she was fighting with the fellow. And the eldest child too got into the fight and was fighting too, because she also got cut all over.
So what can JPs do? Mr. Chuck believes that JPs have strong influence in communities across the island, which they can use to help people to resolve conflicts peacefully.
I want to say to you, justices of the peace, you may think it's far away, but things are happening close to you. And you don't know when it's going to come to your door. So we have to be proactive and make sure that these things don't happen close to us. Because even though it is in Cocapiece, in Clarendon, it's almost like next door.
In the meantime, head of the St. Elizabeth Police Division, Superintendent Dwight Daly, explained how JPs have been working with the police in the parish.
When we call JP and JP comes, and they tell us exactly how the crime is committed, that is good for us and it's good for the justice system. And most times, eventually, it is followed by a guilty plea.
Kelisha Williams, TVJ News.
We go now to a report from the United States where 3 people said to be from Jamaica were found dead inside a house in Queens, New York on Friday. Details from Pix 11 News.
Questions than answers tonight. Police say 3 people were found dead inside of this Queens home, and they believe their bodies may have been there for days.
It's scary.
Zamana Sam has been living in this Queens community for 5 years. He sells plants to people in the neighborhood.
Lady once last year came to my, my plants and she buys.
He and many in the neighborhood were shocked when they heard 3 people were found dead in this home on 155th Street in South Jamaica.
In front of my house, the 3 people killed. It's really, really scary for the neighborhood.
Police say they responded to the home after receiving a 911 call Friday afternoon. When they arrived, they found a 22-year-old woman dead on a bed in a second-floor bedroom. Investigators say her hands were bound together and her mouth was covered with tape.
This is scary, that's sad that it happened right there. 3 people in a house, that's crazy,
And the bloody scene didn't end there. Detectives say in the basement of the home they found 2 other people dead. A man in his 30s with injuries to his head and a 55-year-old woman with stab wounds to her head and neck. They believe all 3 victims were relatives.
Nice family.
As police try to find out who committed these gruesome murders and why, families tell Pix 11 News they're afraid to leave their homes.
I'm a bit scared.
And police are looking into whether a domestic dispute led to these gruesome murders. Police say there have not been any arrests just yet. They did bring in 1 person for questioning, and he has since been released. We're told he is the relative who made the gruesome discovery and called 911. This investigation is far from over. In South Jamaica, Queens, Jennifer Bisram, Pix 11 News.
And we go back home now. Egg on your face again. It's the opposition's criticism of the government on the handling of recent issues, culminating with last week's Commonwealth Secretary General lost by Foreign Affairs Minister Kamina Johnson-Smith. For PNP stalwarts, including leader Mark Golding, it's an embarrassing situation.
According to the PNP president, Mark Golding, the opposition is now in preparation mode to replace the government, and he believes the current administration is making it easy for them.
And the jail people are going to stop shot themselves and then I'm going to afford it. This week, I tell you.
At the Papine St. Andrew Divisional Conference on the weekend, he pointed to the government's failed Commonwealth Secretary General campaign with Foreign Affairs Minister Kamina Johnson-Smith. There was no objection to the challenge from the opposition at first. He sought to explain why.
When a Jamaican put themselves up, we have to support still. So we never really come out hard, although in myself, I look on it and say, that look weird to me,
Weird, he says, because the incumbent Baroness Patricia Scotland is from Dominica, and so he considered her the region's candidate.
And I said to myself, if you make a move like that, you have to have the thing locked. You have to, because you don't make that sense to push out, and you might lose. Kind of fool it, we don't know who put them up to the star, but I tell you the truth. It's an embarrassment. It's an embarrassment. And we spend a whole bag of money, government money, I fight that because, taxpayers' money, I want to know how that money is spent and how much it's spent. I just think the whole thing was a complete, colossal, misguided mistake. And an expensive one at that. And they have egg on their faces again.
The party also pointed to the new state of emergency in St. Catherine and the tabling of regulations the court had ruled unconstitutional a few days before.
Cut and paste, you know what cut and paste means? And bring back the same regulations which the court ruled unconstitutional. So it means nobody never take the time to read it. Not even go through it to see whether the same thing what the court ruled unconstitutional. And then we hear the minister talk about investigation. Investigation what? Them to fire themselves.
The government tabled updated regulations on Thursday.
When I read the so-called right regulations, and those regulations not ready, they're not ready. And I have a right to the Attorney General and tell him why. So don't bother look for our support for those regulations, because you're not going to get it.
Have plays become played out? And did the pandemic close the curtains on pantomimes, traditional dance and singing? In today's edition of Jamaica at 60, Jamila Maitland spoke with professionals in theatre for the final of this 2-part series on the future of theatre in Jamaica.
Jamaica at 60, brought to you by
Get Phil Fiber Faster Yacht and LTE Euro for as low as $3,999 plus GCG.